Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Bex Reads, and today I am starting the search for my Booktube bookmate. So I did this video last year where I spent the latter half of December into mid-January watching as many Booktubers Best Books of the Year videos as I could find, and I gave points depending on what they said their best books were to see who my Booktube bookmate was, to see who I had the most in common with. So that is what I am going to do again this year. If they mention a book in their best books of the year video that I read this year, whether or not I liked it or not, as long as I read it and they read it and it's on their best books, I'm going to give them 1 point. If they mention a book in their video that I read and enjoyed, but it just missed out on my best books, then I'm going to give them 3 points because I did enjoy a similar book to them. It just didn't quite make my list as well. And if they share a similar book that is on my best books of the year list, then I will award them 5 points. And I will leave my best books of the year video in the description if you want to go check out what my top 10 books of the year was. But 5 points if they match any that are on my list. So today is December 27th, and I have watched quite a few videos already, and here are the results as of right now. Some booktubers who I had absolutely nothing in common with: Reading with Rylan, Nerdy Nat Reads, Chelly Reads Books, Issa at Fun Fantasy Books, All I Do Is Read, Diana and the Book Hunt, Ty's Book Corner, and The Book Baron. I didn't have anything in common with any of you guys this year as far as best books go. I do know we've read similar books, just none that made our best books. Good Morning Dreamer got 1 point for having The Honey Witch on her best books of the year. I did read that. In fact, I read it for the Black Hat Book Coven, and it was just okay. It wasn't anything that I loved. Kayla's Bookish Vibes also got 1 point for having When the Moon Hatched on her best books of the year. Again, this is a book that I read and I was pretty ambivalent toward it. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. Jess at Honest Fiction got 2 points for having When the Moon Hatched again, and she also had Nectar of the Wicked on her best books, which I absolutely despise that book. See my worst books of the year video linked in the description. This isn't a surprise because Jess and I have completely different tastes, but we both did read that book this year, so 2 points to Jess for that. And rounding out the videos that I have watched so far, coming in first place is Gavin Reads It All. He and I have a similar book on our best books of the year list, which was Someone You Can Build a Nest In. So Gavin gets 5 points and moves to the top of the leaderboard for now. So I will be back with an update once I have watched a few more of these videos. It is now December 31st, so happy New Year's Eve, everyone. Last year I feel like I had a lot more in common with people because I read more popular books, and this year what was on my top 10 weren't the most popular of books. So I'm finding a lot of booktubers I have nothing in common with. Let me list them for you. Happily Ever April, Mama Needs to Read Romance, Babe in Library, Mackie Really Reads, A Little Literary Love, Char Reads All Day, Venus Escapes to Read, Library Unbounded, Robin Reads, Sarzana, and Gwendolyn Kensinger. I didn't have anything in common with any of these booktubers as far as our top reads of the year go. I did, however, have some in common with Rainy Blue Reads. She gets 4 points for having One Dark Window on her top books of the year. I reread One Dark Window again this year, and I loved it even more upon reread, so she gets 3 points for that because while I loved it, it didn't quite make my top books of the year, but it was so close. And she gets an additional point for having When the Moon Hatched on her top list as well because, once again, I read it and I was just ambivalent about it. A surprise this year, moving her to the top spot in my search so far, is Toria at A Novel Life. She got 6 points because she included both One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns on her top books of the year list, and I read both of those and really enjoyed them, even though they didn't quite make my top 10 list. And the Bright Side Girl got 3 points for having Spectacular on her top reads of the year list. I read Spectacular just in December and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really cute Carvel novella, but it didn't make my top reads of the year, but I still enjoyed it. So those are the rankings as of New Year's Eve. Tori is in the top spot with only 6 points. By this time last year, I had like some 20 pointers on my list, so that's what I get for not reading popular books. But I will check in with you once I have watched a few more best books of the year videos. It is January 4th now, so I hope you had a good start to your 2025. I've watched several more best books of the year videos, so let's go through the results Here are the people's videos who I watched who I have nothing in common with. Kapowski Reads, Bookishly Nerdy, Into the Nook, Christy Reads a Lot, Oh Hey It's McKay, The Book Refuge, and Sharnian Books. Monica at Pardon This Book Addict, she got 3 points for having Darkest Sins on her best books of the year list. This book just barely missed like my top 10 of the year. I loved this one. Sam Reads a Little got 1 point for having When the Moon Hatched on her top list. Covers with Cassidy got 3 points for having The Ever King mentioned in her video. She did it as an honorable mention, but I've been including any book that anybody puts in their best books of the year video, whether it's an honorable mention or not. So 3 points to Cassidy. Jen Spren got 3 points for having The Spell Shop mentioned in her video. This just missed out on my top 10 list. I loved this book though. I think it did actually come in first in my Fave 5 fantasy books of the year video though, because I loved this. It was absolutely cute. And Rachel at Raven Haired Reader got 1 point for having When the Moon Hatched also mentioned in her video. So that is where I am up to on my search for my BookTube bookmate. Tori at Novel Life is still in the lead with 6 points. So I'm going to give it a couple more weeks to see who comes out with other videos, because I am waiting for my Black Hat Book Girls to put out their best books of the year videos, because if there's anybody that I'm going to have more in common with, it should technically be one of them. I want to say if I had to guess, it would be Laura, because Laura came in second last year on the search for my BookTube bookmate. And Laura and I do tend to have a lot in common as far as reading goes. I'm hoping that Kristen and I have something in common this year so she can be on the map. Last year, she and I didn't have anything in common. Which is sad, because I feel like Kristen and I have a lot of similar taste in books, but it didn't work out for us last year. So I'm at least hoping that you make the list, Kristen. And then Jackie, I have no freaking clue where Jackie's gonna fall. It wouldn't surprise me if Jackie doesn't make this list. Because Jackie and I often don't have similar taste in books. But I'm waiting for them to put out their best books videos so I could see where they land on this chart. Hello once again. It is now January 6th, I think. I'm losing track of the days. I've watched a few more best books of the year videos, so let's see who's where now. A few people who I watched and I had nothing in common with were I Would Rather Be Reading, Brandywine Books, and surprisingly, Kaylani Simply Me. Why is that surprising? Because if you watched last year's video where I was on the hunt for my BookTube bookmate, Kaylani came in at the winner. So she and I had nothing in common this year. Samantha Donovan got 3 points for having One Dark Window in her video. And Leonie from the Book Leo joins Tori at Novel Life for the first place with 6 points. For the exact same reason. Leonie also had One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns on her best books of the year video. Those are the rankings as of now. Leonie and Tori are tied for the first spot. So hopefully I will see a few more videos and I will update you soon. Okay, it is now January 16th and I think I have watched as many best books of 2024 videos as I want to watch. I haven't been seeing nearly as many come out in the last week or so, so I'm going to cut it off here. And these are going to be the final results. So some booktubers who I watched who I had nothing in common with this year were Reads with Kelsey, Pretty Purple Polka Dots, and Cuddy's Bookshelf. Hannah Blackwell got 1 point for having When the Moon Hatched on her top books. Kristen at Kristen Craves Books. This year, she gets 5 points for having Someone You Can Build a Nest In on her best books, which was also on mine. She gets 3 points for having The Spell Shop on her best books. It just barely missed out on my best books of the year, but I loved it. And she got 1 point for having When a Sorceress Calls, which I also read this year. I didn't love it, but I did read it, which means Kristen moves into the top spot at 9 points. Nina Quill got 1 point for having When the Moon Hatched on her best books of the year. Mrs. Pizza Reads got 5 points for having Someone You Can Build a Nest In on her best books of the year, which again made my list. My Kind of Steph got 3 points for having The Veiled Kingdom on her best books of the year. This is one that, again, I really enjoyed this year, but it just missed out on my best books of the year. And Laura at a Book Circus, who came in second place last year, she got 5 points for mentioning Where the Dark Stands Still in her video. Now, again, she did mention this as an honorable mention, but it was in her Best Books of the Year video, and I've been counting those. She got 3 points for having Mirrored Heavens on her Best Books, which we actually buddy read together this year, and I really enjoyed this. It didn't make my Best Books of the list, but I did give it 4 stars. And she got 1 point for having The Honey Witch on her Best Books of the Year list, which is one that we read together for the Black Hat Book Coven. She really loved it. I just thought it was okay, but we both read it, which means she is tied with Kristen for 9 points. So that being the end of this challenge to see who is my 2024 bookmate, I have 2 this year, and they are both part of my Black Hat Book Coven, which just makes my heart so happy. So congratulations, Laura and Kristen. You are my bookmate from last year. We had the most in common. So with this challenge, I'm not really doing anything with it other than seeing who I had the most in common with in 2024. I don't plan to like read books that were on their list or anything like that. No, I'm not committing to that. I just wanted to see who I had the most in common with. So thank you for tuning in to see who my 2024 Booktube bookmate was. Let me know down in the comments, is there a booktuber who you think you have the most in common with reading-wise? Let me know. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, go subscribe to a new booktuber. Bye!